Just want to talk about Brazil. You're the talk of the world when it comes to renewable energy, what you're doing in the biofuels area. Can you just give us some insights into some of the things that are happening in Brazil? What are the key achievements that you've made in Brazil over the last 20, 30 years in the biofuels area?
Well, our country naturally elected food production as the major thing we know how to do. We have 40% of our economy dependent on agribusiness, 40% of our exports, 40% of our employment. And the new kid on the block on the last 2 or 3 years is the emergent biofuel industry all over the world. And now we come to the lesson we were lucky and maybe competent to build up this lesson in the last 30, 35 years. That's our sugarcane industry. The sugarcane industry supplies sugar and ethanol in the last 30 years to our country, helping us in exports, helping us reduce the dependence of oil, and it has a nice example to show the world. What we could point out is that sugarcane is a wonderful crop to extract the energy from the sun, extract carbon from the air, and produce something that can be crushed and generate energy. So it has a surplus in terms of environment. It's very important. Our experience in our country for more than 30 years now, when the pro-ethanol program was launched by the militaries in 1975, together with some executives and some farmers, is that it gave wonderful results. Sugarcane is very competitive in terms of supplying sugar and supplying ethanol. There are a lot of sugar mills, more than 300 in our country. There's more than 100 being built due to this new demand for ethanol in the world. We used to have the fully ethanol moved cars and the gasoline cars. At the end of the 80s, 88, 89, 90, 95% of all new cars sold in Brazil were totally ethanol. And then to the several problems that happened, gasoline, oil prices went down, so reduced a bit the competitiveness of ethanol. We started building more gasoline moved cars, and the ethanol program was a bit sleepy, and sugar was the major development of this industry. Then what happened is that oil prices went up again, and we developed what we call the flex fuel cars, which are cars that can use either gasoline or ethanol or a mixture of them. And this was a wonderful technological breakthrough for this industry, because after that you gave the power for the consumer to decide. So if you have nice prices of ethanol at the gas station, you use ethanol in your car. If not, you use gasoline. And this created a huge flexibility. I think that's a nice word to attach to this industry in Brazil, flexibility. You can be flexible to use ethanol or to use gasoline, and our gasoline has from 20 to 25% of ethanol. So it's or 100% ethanol or 25%. And this can move from 20 to 25. The government decides, depending on the size of the crop, on the prices. So it's also flexible in this way. And we see a very promising future for this industry also, because there's a lot of areas to be developed for sugarcane. We can multiply per 5 the size of this industry. We use 6 million hectares, we can use 30 million hectares, and supply ethanol for the world in a very competitive basis. I think in terms of future, we can consider biofuels, and in biofuels, the ethanol, what we call the fuel of peace, because you give a lot of jobs, it's good for employment, it's good for the environment, because you are using a totally renewable fuel, which extracts CO2 from the air, which helps to reduce, let's say, the temperature and counterbalance the global warming. It's good also for exports. It's good for the economy, and it's good for what we call empowerment. because you're putting the money that's used for energy to the farms and not for oil producing. So this money is going directly to farmers, improving their income. And if farmers get more income, they're going to hire more people, and then you're going to move all the economy of the smaller cities in the Midwest of the country. So you put development inside the country. That's a wonderful equation for our development.
The thing I found interesting about your talk, where you talked about your export capabilities, because right now you are exporting ethanol to, I believe, China, countries like that. But you've also indicated that you don't want to dominate the industry. Can you comment a bit about that?
Yes, because if you talk about a company, any company, no company wants to have one or two suppliers of an input it needs to produce and to move forward. And that's the same with all ethanol buyers. They don't want to move their dependence on the Middle East to the dependence on one country like Brazil in ethanol. So we know that, and Brazil has a very important role, that ethanol has to be a worldwide produced commodity. And then we have a nice position. So Brazil dominates very well the manufacturing of ethanol, the plants, the technology, the sugarcane business. So what we want to do in the next year is not only export ethanol, but export the whole business to countries like South Africa, African countries, Thailand, several other countries that can have the technology of our ethanol and then help producing ethanol to the world. That's also, it's a major task of the strategy of this business is to export it to Mexico, several other countries, and then we can have a worldwide production of ethanol, not dependent on one supplier.
How much production do you have right now in sugarcane for ethanol production, and where do you see it growing to? I mean, how big can it become?
In our country, we have an area of 6 million hectares going on, being used for sugarcane, and the potential for growing sugarcane is in areas like the state of São Paulo, where are major projects in the west of the state, where we used to have cattle produced in an extensive basis. So sugarcane is taking part of this cattle area. In the south of the state of Minas Gerais, of Goiás, which are states at the Cerrado region, and there is also a possibility of irrigated sugarcane at the northeast of Brazil, at the São Francisco River Valley. And there are some nice projects also going on over there. So the production is going to be very diversified in the country. And this is also good for risk reduction and for logistics, because then you're very, very close to the consumers. So you produce and then you supply to the consumers of the large cities where you are nearby, and then you reduce a lot the transport costs of ethanol, which makes it even more competitive for the internal market, which is huge also.
So I take it the Brazilians have embraced ethanol? And Brazilians have embraced ethanol?
Yes. And it's very funny to talk about this subject because 2 or 3 years ago, the image of the ethanol business in Brazil was terrible. And from 2 years to now, it changed dramatically because people can see the benefits of having this large industry. They had their image associated with subsidies, subsidized in the past, in the 70s, a lot of money to build on those industries with arrogant people. And from 5 years from now, let's say from 2002 ahead, a totally new image, new people, new management going on, and new leadership, so the consumers can have a feeling of the profit they are taking or the advantage they are taking of having the sugar cane industry in our country.
Is industry investing in the ethanol
Yes.
industry?
The major investors are, if you take Brazil, we have the industry groups that are operating in our country, building new plants in different areas and expanding capacity of the plants they have. That's one group.